going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought. We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, I come back with that video just to make you think. And we have Brad Garlinghouse again on the Ripple and SEC case. And we know the SEC is using this case to kick the regulation can down the road. Because once they come down with regulation, these 19,000 cryptos are going to shrink fast. We saw the blueprint from Big Tech. We know Gary Gensler is the NWO's chess piece. Do not forget crypto is global. That means that regulation has to be what? Global. Humans working in the SEC will no longer exist. The same reason we will no longer have politicians. All of it is going to be ran by blockchain. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And we have Scaramucci on the NASDAQ and Bitcoin. And you guys know I've been preaching it from the beginning that they're moving lockstep because Bitcoin is being treated like a tech stock. But Bitcoin is going to take a beating, dragging these altcoins down. But we know Bitcoin is going to rise. For the fourth industrial revolution, where the robots, algorithms, and drones take over the economy and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you because he knows. When it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
In this case.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for having me. I think it is, as you introduced, the reason why the Twitter crypto community cares so much about this question is it's not just about Ripple. It really is, as was introduced, that the whole industry is impacted by this decision. And the core question, as was kind of set up at the beginning, boils down to a 1946 Supreme Court case that has become known as the Howey test, a test to determine is something a security or not. And look, at the end of the day, we have other parts of even the United States government who have called XRP the digital asset that's native to Ripple's technology stack. It's been called a currency. It's been called property. The irony is the only country on the planet that thinks XRP is a security is the United States, SEC. The case has gone well. Yeah. It's still playing out. The SEC, in our judgment, has certainly moved slowly. Typically in these situations, when the SEC brings the case, they want to move quickly. They have been dragging their feet. Gary Gensler said recently publicly that justice delayed is justice denied, and unfortunately, justice is being delayed here by continuing efforts by the SEC to push things out.
Okay, well, Brad, our litigation analysts here at Bloomberg Intelligence think that the SEC ultimately is going to win this. That's just an opinion. It's a hypothetical scenario. But in that scenario, how does Ripple move forward?
Well, look, I think the Howey test is being stretched beyond recognition. And again, there's a 1946 Supreme Court case. So the idea that XRP, which we use as a currency, the idea that that's a security, I think is just misguided. But look, unfortunately, Ripple is already operating in a world where it's as if we have lost. Right, so in the United States, XRP has for all intents and purposes, there's no liquidity. It's been halted and frozen on most U.S.-based exchanges. despite that fact, Ripple had a record year last year. We continued to grow very quickly across our major product groups. Even Q1 was a record for us. Now, unfortunately, that growth is almost all coming from outside the United States, and we are hiring more and more people outside the United States. But our customer base now is about 95% non-U.S. companies, non-U.S. payment companies.
And what are you seeing out of those customers with regards to the use of the crypto assets, Brad?
Look, the demand for our core product, which uses XRP to facilitate these cross-border payments, the demand for that grew 8x year over year. So from Q1 last year to Q1 this year, it grew 8x. And that's off a base already measured in the billions. Mm-hmm. So from our point of view, demand has skyrocketed. I just think it's incredibly frustrating that here in the United States, where we have led innovation in so many different industries, we have an agency that is overreaching and really constraining competitiveness and in hiring people here in the United States.
Yeah, and we kind of know how this plays out, Brad. I worked in Washington for a lot of years with some of these agencies. I'm going to rephrase the question I asked before, because it seems like what the SEC is going after, and for that matter, the CFTC, is a look at the use case, and I guess how they determine, at least in their viewpoint, the use case for crypto assets ends up becoming, I guess, the base case for what type of regulation you end up with.
I think that's super fair. I think the different use cases, and one of the things I have certainly pushed from the earliest days of my tenure here at Ripple is it's all about utility. And there's going to be different shapes and different sizes. We're going to live in what I describe as a multi-chain, multi-crypto world. There isn't going to be one winner to rule them all. And I think the way the SEC here in the U.S. at least has acted is, hey, we'll comment on Bitcoin, but we won't even comment anymore about Ether, despite previously leadership of the SEC saying that Ether is not a security. So I believe very much utility does matter. The facts and circumstances matter. But time and time again, what we find is the CFTC is the most appropriate regulator for this industry. And I think you find that uniformly across the whole industry.
So, Brad, you talk about how the U.S., this is kind of a U.S.-specific issue in many senses. How do you see that being formative for the crypto industry here in the States? How far behind does America risk becoming?
Well, I think one of the key measures here is if you were starting a crypto or blockchain company today, whatever use case you might be, whatever utility you might be pursuing, would you start it here in the United States where you don't have clear regulation? Or would you choose a jurisdiction like Switzerland or the United Kingdom or Singapore or even UAE? Would you choose a country where you do have clear laws? The advice I give entrepreneurs, and even the advice I give investors, is if you're starting a company today, start it where you have that certainty and clarity so you can build knowing where the guardrails are. Here in the United States, we simply don't have that. We've been asking for that. One of the great ironies of this whole story here in the U.S. is the SEC at its core has been a group that demands transparency, demands disclosure. Yet they, in this case, are doing the exact opposite. They're hiding their notes. The judge in the case has demanded that they turn over notes to us. They've been resisting that for over a year. So in a world where the SEC is all about disclosures and transparency, they're doing the opposite here. They're claiming that this is the wild, wild west. Crypto's not the wild west here in the United States. These are regulated entities. It's just they want to be the regulator, and they're thinking more about what's kind of in the empire building of the SEC as opposed to how do we make the U.S. super competitive to lead in this industry as we did in the age of the internet back in the late 90s.
It's good to see you from the Bahamas. We'll talk about the conference in a second, but let's talk about the price of Bitcoin and how correlated. I mean, I don't know if you were able to look at that chart. It's almost a mirror image of the NASDAQ. What's happening here?
Well, it's directly correlated. I mean, they're basically treating it, it's bundled in with the FANG stocks, and it's bundled in with what I would say is high growth tech, Andrew, and it'll be correlated until it isn't. That's just one of the weird things about it. There have been periods of time over the last 5 years where it hasn't been correlated or it's broken, apart from it. I don't think that happens again, frankly, until you get a cash Bitcoin ETF or something really changes. Now, the Fidelity announcement is a very big seminal event. Only 21 million coins out there. 19 or so have been mined. Fidelity's got $2.4 trillion in assets, in retirement assets. I mean, 11 trillion or 13 trillion overall. But just think about those numbers. And I think Fidelity is going to end up doing for Bitcoin what that corporation did for the stock market in 401ks in the 80s and into the early 90s. So that could happen over time, and as that happens, you will see those things decouple. If you get a cash ETF, it'll force every wirehouse, every Wall Street firm to have a Bitcoin Cash ETF as part of its arsenal and its portfolio when it's talking to their wealth management people. All of those things, I think, will start the decoupling process. But for right now, those two things are in sync, and there's a lot of pain out there. But I think when I look at Bitcoin, I see it as fairly stable, sort of 35 to 42,000. Seems to be bouncing in that range for right now.
Powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.